They said, bro, what you're doing, can you scale this? I said, I'm going to have 10 done by June of this year. 10 different funds with real estate and Bitcoin. I showed it to a guy that's had public companies in the real estate sector. He's had REITs since he was 28 years old. I have a meeting with him this morning. When he saw it, he doesn't own any Bitcoin. This guy's got billions of dollars of real estate. He owns no Bitcoin, has never bought a single piece. And when I showed it to him, he was like, I'll invest in that deal right now. Instant. Like it was, I didn't explain anything to him, bro. All I showed him was I have my real estate buying my Bitcoin. I have renters, basically tenants, giving me money to go buy a thing called Bitcoin.
Welcome back to the Culture Bit. Today, we're talking with Grant Cardone, real estate mogul, recently turned Bitcoin advocate. We had a fantastic conversation. We talked about his upbringing, his flight into real estate, and his now Bitcoin real estate fund that is very closely mirroring a similar strategy, similar to what Strategy, formerly MicroStrategy, is doing with their stock dividends and debt equity plays. Very interesting conversation. He's going to be speaking at Bitcoin 2025 later this May. If you like what you hear today, you can catch him at Bitcoin 2025 in May. If you haven't secured your tickets yet, you can use code BM10 at checkout at b.tc/conference. Now to the show. Grant, absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. Culture Bit is a show designed around bringing in outside voices of Bitcoin, but prominent people, whether it be in traditional finance, real estate, such as yourself. Mining and energy is also a big area. Super excited to chat with you today. I figured before we get into all the Bitcoin stuff, we'd kick off with Grant Cardone. Who is Grant Cardone? I know a lot of people are familiar with you, but one of the things I like to dig into is background, upbringing, all that stuff crafts people into understanding what low time preferences are. And I think that resonates a lot with just identifying some of these assets and stuff. So let's start there. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Who's Grant?
Yeah, so look, I was born in 1958, and I think that's very important to the context of the age, the time frame that I grew up in. It was America was into expansion. The middle class was a real thing then. It wasn't an illusion. It was actually real. You could actually attain it. My dad died when I was 10 years old, so the income that was coming into the household stopped. We were 5 kids. That's back in the day when people naturally had 5 kids. Like every household had 3, 4, 5. Like if you had under 3, there was like, they must be having problems at home or something. And it was a different world, man. The dollar was respected. Buying a house was actually an investment. You could, the goal was to make enough money that you could retire. Many of those things, as I look back now, I'm like, okay, none of that's like, it's a completely different game today. I was raised by a single mom. So, I was watching her struggle with money. That's why money became really, really important to me. And I talk about money quite a bit to my audience, about the importance of money, the importance of income, not losing the money. Where do you put it so you don't lose it? I mean, that's what I built a career out of. I was a salesman when I was 20, in my 20s, getting out of college. I got an accounting degree, Allen, that I found completely useless because I couldn't get a job. There was 25% unemployment in the town I lived in, Lake Charles, Louisiana. It was a refinery town. And so the only place I could get a job was in a car dealership. They said, yeah, we'll hire you if you work out. We give you a little draw. I think they gave me, I don't know, $300 every 2 weeks. And anything else above that, I had to sell to pay my bills. And I hated sales, man. I hated that job. I'd been a clothing salesman, a shoe salesman, a fish salesman. It was the only thing you could do. I had a roofing job. I mean, I hated all the labor jobs I had. I worked at a refinery one summer. I worked on roofs one summer. I actually worked on a boat in Cameron, Louisiana one year. Like I did whatever hustle I could, right? I was pretty much not good at anything that I did. I worked at McDonald's. I got fired. I got fired from the shoe store, the clothing store. So I had a lot of misses, man. And I think I just went to college so I didn't have to go to work. But I was a mess, bro. I had a drug problem for 10 years of my life. And at 25, I decided, okay, I got to get my shit back. I got to get my shit together. And the only place I could get a job was where I was working before I went to I went to a treatment center for drug addiction. And when I came back, that place that I'd been working at hired me back, said, hey, you got one chance. If you mess this one up, bro, like, we're not taking you back. And that's where I got my game together. I started learning. I learned how to do sales, and I found out I actually didn't like it because I was no good at it. It's not that I didn't like it because sales is some terrible job. I didn't like it because I didn't know how to do it. And then once I learned how to do it, and that's a system, not only would I get good at it and like it, it would end up becoming a career. I wrote 3 or 4 sales books. Became a thought leader in the space worldwide, and that's kind of how I started my upward trajectory. If
Yeah,
you will.
never quit. Or had a series of failures and you just kept picking yourself back up. What people would traditionally say is picking yourself up by the bootstraps. I resonate with you in the sense that you went to college as a time killer or something to just pass the time. That was what everybody was doing, right? Wanted to get your accounting degree. It was going to supposedly set you up for life. But I find it interesting because I was hearing you chat with actually your twin brother, Gary, quite a bit about how the both of you were just bored being at home. And things just weren't like capturing your attention. And so finally, you went through this drug addiction rehabilitation center, went through a series of jobs, and then finally, I guess, walk me through the moment that it finally clicked with you in sales, right? You said that you realized that you weren't good at sales, and that's why you hated it.
I didn't know what I was doing, dude. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I had no training. I didn't know. There was no system. There was nothing. And then one day, this guy handed me a tape, a little cassette tape. You probably don't even know what a cassette tape is. I threw it in my car. I listened to it. And I'm like, oh shit, there's a system. There's a way to do this. And this guy was explaining, okay, when you meet somebody, you do this. And then when you find out what they need, and then you land them on that product, and then you demonstrate the product, and then you do this next thing and this next thing. I was like, oh, wow. Like, it was a revelation, bro. It was like, there's the light switch, but I didn't know what a light switch was. So I'm like, I can't find the light switch because I don't know what a light switch is. And this was the light switch. It popped. Oh, so I started doing that. And I started listening to this guy, and there was an 800 number on it, and it said, call for more products. So I called the 800 number. I said, what else do you guys have? And they said, well, we have a video program. You can watch this in full video, and the presenter will actually walk you through each. How much is it? $3,000. I said, I'll call you right back. I called my mom. I said, I need to borrow $3,000. And it was embarrassing, man. I'm 25 years old. I'm having to borrow $3,000 from my mom. I'm just coming out of this treatment center. So, your mom the moms don't want to give the recovering drug addict, $3,000 because that's not a good sign. Convinced her it wasn't for drugs. I said, look, man, I'm telling you, like, I'll pay you back. It'll probably take me, 6 months, 9 months. Trust me on this. I got you, blah, blah, blah. So she gives me the money. I call the people back. I said, send it to me. $3,000. This $3,000 in 83. It's a lot of bread, bro. It's like $10,000 today. Well, what's crazy is now we don't have Amazon. You don't have overnight delivery in 1983. It's going to take probably 10 days to get this thing to me. The same day that I committed to it, and then the next day I made $3,000. And I don't have the product, but I'm so excited about what's coming. And it's almost like I've committed to something spiritually that I'm going to get better. And God, the universe, all of a sudden starts throwing gifts at me. Like it was wild, bro. So when I got the video program, I watched that thing every morning. I'd spend an hour. I'd watch the whole thing, and then every morning before I'd go to work, I'd watch an hour. And that was my start. I mean, that was really, I would end up becoming a bigger name in sales than the guy that was on that video.
Bigger is an understatement for sure.
It was the start of everything.
Yeah, no,
bro.
you found the moment. You figured out the light switch, which is super fascinating. I know, I've come across your videos a number of times talking about real estate, motivation, sales, the whole 9 yards. And for context for the audience, I mean, you're no small time guy. You have a multi-billion-dollar real estate portfolio, right? So you obviously cracked the system here. So walk me through from sales to real estate. How did you get there?
Yeah, because your Bitcoin audience is listening right now. They say, "Why am I listening to some sales guy?" Just so you guys understand, this is now transformed into a. I just had a meeting with Mike Saylor a couple months ago, and I'll tell you your audience more about that here in a second. But it's gone from, I can't make a $275 rent payment to being a car salesman. Okay, I mean, bro, it's not like I was a salesman at Microsoft. To end up to becoming one of the biggest names in sales, if not, only my humility's only telling you I'm not, but actually I am. And sold tens of millions of books on sales, hold some of the largest business conferences in the world now. We have a $5 billion real estate portfolio. We've sold over $1 billion, three on the internet in educational products. Have a consulting company that does about $150 million a year, and a health company that we just bought 4 years ago that could do 220 this year. So we got combined sales of about $1 billion a year now, and just opened up our first real estate Bitcoin fund that sold out $88 million in about 3 weeks. I'm going to create 10 more of these Bitcoin real estate funds and go public with it before the end of the year. I think that absolutely happens. So this sales guy. Most people don't even know me as a salesman anymore. They don't even know the first part of my career. So,
well, I want to definitely get into the Bitcoin real estate stuff, but before we do, I've heard you talk a number of times about other assets, stocks, things are, securities, things that are less tangible than real estate. Why does somebody like you of your caliber, who has such a big real estate and company portfolio, is all of a sudden interested in Bitcoin as a hard asset? What's the intersection there between real estate and Bitcoin in your eyes?
Well, I think the one thing you left out of that conversation is the dollar.
Absolutely.
Right. It's the reason I invest in real estate is because I've never trusted the dollar.
And why is that?
I look at it and I'm like, to me, it's based on a lie, and I've never understood it. No one's ever been able to explain it to me. And it has nothing to do with gold, by the way. I don't give a shit whether it's backed by gold or not. Like, even when it was backed by gold, it still didn't make any sense to me. If it's worth something, it doesn't need to be backed by anything. So you putting gold behind it, and I've never used gold in my lifetime. I'm 66 years old. I have never traded gold for anything, and no one's ever offered me gold for anything. So I've never owned a nickel's worth of gold, and even the gold chains that I have, I think have no value. Again, except for the value that I want to wear a gold necklace. Otherwise, nobody's got any. That's not an investment. Okay, it's and the dollar. If I leave the dollar around, let's see if I got any around in there. No, I don't have any around. I have to hide it because everybody steals my money. So I look at it, it says in the back of it, "In God we trust." But if my wife sees that, she reads it as, "This is mine." And so it ends up being in her wallet, not mine. If I collect it, I get taxed on it. If I keep it, it goes down in value. I hate stocks because it's another piece of paper. To me, I just traded one piece of made up bullshit for another piece of bullshit. And if I don't have insider information, now look, I'm not against the stock market. If I could sell to the market, I would, and I will, by the way. I just don't want to own what the market's selling. As long as I can be an insider, dude, I'll do it, and not go to without being a congressman. So real estate, I can be an insider. You can do insider training on real estate. I can tell you about the deal I'm in. I can tell you what I'm buying. I can tell you what I paid for it. I can tell you what they paid for it. I can tell you I'm 15 million below replacement cost. It's going to cash flow 5.5% on a worst case scenario. I can show you every tenant in the building. I could get a loan on it or not get a loan on it. I can give you every piece of data and not go to jail for anything. I can't do that in stocks unless I'm a congressman.
Yeah, unless your name's Nancy Pelosi, right?
Yeah, exactly. So unless I'm an insider, and look, I bought Lehman when Lehman was $1. It was a $180 stock. It went all the way down to $1, 2008. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna buy it now. I bought $1 million at one. I bought $1 million, a million shares. It went to zero. That ain't fun. I don't like losing money. So in real estate, as long as I don't over leverage the real estate, assuming I buy real estate in a good location, and assuming it has cash flow above the property taxes and debt, assuming that, then as long as I have enough time and I don't have somebody telling me when to sell it, I'm going to be fine. And so that really the U.S. dollar is my problem, right? Because I know in my lifetime, the U.S. dollar has lost 90% of its value in my lifetime. So the idea that you would save money is not real. You can't save money. It's impossible to save money. Banks should not be able to say you're saving money. There should be a full disclosure. Okay, if you leave this money here, we're going to pay you 0.5%. They should disclose that. Until you have $1 million with us, we're not going to pay you more than 2, whatever. They should let everybody know what the game is. And they should let them know, if you leave this money in here 4 years, we expect it to be worth less or buy less when you take it out than when you put it in. Based on historical, the last 66 years, your money would be worth 3 or 4% per year less what it is today, or buy.
Bitcoin for corporations, protecting your treasury and positioning you for the future. Yeah, well, the worst part is the CPI numbers that the Fed likes to put out are not even accurate. I think the current numbers are around like 3.5%, and realistically, it's closer to 9-10 just for the year, which is crazy. And you look at you look at half of America, the lower 50%, they're not even trying to invest in assets right now just because they can't. They're trying to get by on a day-to-day basis on their paychecks, and it's just melting a hole right through their pockets, which is a horrible thing to see. And that has multiple downstream effects, right? So I think now more than ever, the pathways to look towards other avenues for protecting your wealth is growing exponentially. And real estate used to be that safe haven. I think for you, maybe that's what resonated back in the day. You were able to identify early on that you don't want to hold on to dollars. You hold on to it too long, if you said your purchasing power goes under, it's useless to you. But now, real estate's at all-time highs. People like myself, Gen Zers, who are trying to get into the real estate game, putting 10, 20% down on a home is almost unrealistic, especially where wages are currently at. And so I guess, Grant, my question for you here, right, is you're a trailblazer. You know where markets are going. Like you said, you like being on the inside, right? You have a massive portfolio of real estate. Bitcoin comes around. You mentioned to me that you don't like gold. Why does Bitcoin make sense to you as an asset?
Well, yeah. Let me just back up a little bit, because you and I, we're having a couple conversations here. I'm not talking about single family homes. Single family homes are not coming down. If you guys are going to wait, first of all, a single family home is not an investment. It is a mirror. It is a place to live. It should not be considered an investment. You're never going to win in it. If you go back 100 years, the average single family home is up about 1% when adjusted for inflation. When you take in the cost of the money, 7%, 1.5% for property taxes, that's 8.5%. 1% for maintenance, that's 9.5%. Let's see, what have I left out here? If you have any kind of HOA, and most of the new properties today in suburban markets, if they have a neighborhood, they're going to have some kind of HOA. You have electrical, gas, etc. You have insurance. Insurance could be another 1%. So you're at about 10.5%. If you can get insurance that you have to make on your home every year. The average home's about 400 grand in this country. I think the average loan is about 316. Excuse me. So you need to make on a 400, you have to pick up $40,000 every year. In 10 years, you have to sell your home for a 400,000, which is not even a good home today. I mean, in Miami, the average home's 800. New York City, they're $1,000,001. California's 880 or something. So you'd have to buy something for 400 or 500, sell it for $1 million to break even. Now, you had to live someplace, but the truth is rent. For a young guy, I would rent. In Miami, I would rent, not buy, because it's at least half of what it costs to own. So now, number two, I'm talking about income properties, okay? I have $5 billion worth of real estate, about 15,000 apartments, every one of them cash flow. So I'm getting positive cash flow. How I got on the Bitcoin train is I was taking dollars, fiat. I'd hustle. I have all these businesses and I hustle money, and I end up with a surplus of money and I dump it into the real estate. I've been doing that since I was 30 years old. I'd pick up 300 grand from the marketplace. I'd accumulate 300. I'd go buy a $1.2 million real estate deal. I'd go hustle another 300 grand. I'd buy another one. I'd buy another one. And those things, I ended up with 15,000 apartments at, now the rents are $2,000. So whatever that is, 30 million a month of income. And, less all the expenses, I end up with some money. And as money gets printed, as money continues to get printed, the value of that real estate has to go up because the rents are going up. You get it. Now, in 2013, one of my businesses was I would speak at events. It's a cash business. People liked me coming in and entertaining them for an hour, sharing some of my stories like we're doing right now. And this group called me up and said, hey, would you come to Vegas and do a gig? Here's the dates. And I said, yeah, I'm available. I can do it. And they said, we don't have money. They were in Bitcoin, and I think it was a multi-level marketing group. I think they blew up since then. They're out. And I said, bro, look, just pay me in cash. I don't know what Bitcoin is. And he's like, the only way I can pay you is Bitcoin. I said, okay, I'm in town anyway. I'll come do it as a favor, and I'll take your Bitcoin. I figured it was worth nothing. He gave me 100 pieces, 100 Bitcoin. I still have the Bitcoin today. And that was my introduction to Bitcoin. So that's worth to this morning. I guess it's worth 8.2 million. It was a good
Is that
gig.
the best you've been paid in the long term now with the price appreciation?
That's the best. Yeah, that's the best. That's the best speaking gig I've ever done. And what I did was I started watching it. Right, once you own something, you're going to kind of watch it. I've done nothing with none of the altcoins. I don't know anything about them. And every month I get a big distribution check, not the Bitcoin. I get distribution for my 15,000 units. Well, about 2 years ago, a guy showed me this. What's it called? It basically says if you put in a certain amount of money each month into Bitcoin, what would it be worth over a 4-year period or 2-year or 3-year, right? It's an online free calculation. Well, dude, I put in my distributions every month were significant, very, very significant from the real estate that I've been taking in fiat. And I looked at it, I put it in there and I'm like, oh my God, dude, I would have made like $2 billion. And I didn't spend that cash anyway, by the way. I don't spend more than I take in. I spend a tiny fraction of the money that I earn every month. And so I started looking, okay, how could I do something with the Bitcoin and the real estate? I own a lot of real estate, dude. At some point you own enough. And then I met with Saylor, and then I figured out how to get my real estate to buy my Bitcoin.
Yeah, you sold your sold your Golden Beach mansion, I believe, for what, 600-ish Bitcoin?
No, I marketed it. I didn't get a buyer at it, but I marketed both my Malibu house and my Golden Beach house for Bitcoin. It was more of a marketing gimmick than it was a sale. Even though I would have sold it, and I still would today. It would just take a few more Bitcoin.
What's the price you would put on it right now in Bitcoin terms?
Well, the house didn't go down, so I need $42 million worth of Bitcoin.
That's roughly what, 10x move? How big of an appreciative move is that for you? When you're looking to sell your real estate in Bitcoin, what are the parameters you're looking for?
I need 500 Bitcoin for the house.
We're putting it on the market right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, continue to walk me through this. So you're obviously, you mentioned that you have enough real estate. You're trying to diversify out. You're launching this real estate Bitcoin fund.
I'm not really trying to diversify out. I'm trying to add. I don't see this as, first of all, I'm not a big person on diversification. I actually hate the concept. The people that I've studied all got rich because they were in one or two things, not many things. That example, Steve Jobs, when he died, he owned two investments, both of which he ran. My friend Bob Duggan, he's worth $12 or $13 billion. He owns two companies. That's his two investments. Most guys that go off into other stuff. Warren Buffett made all his money in one thing, took as big a position as he could until the SEC said you can't buy anymore. He either took over the whole company or he would then make a bigger investment in another second company. But he only made one or two investments every year for the last 60 years. Diversification is for people that really don't know what they're doing. Look at Saylor. Saylor doesn't have any investments. It's what he owns and his Bitcoin story.
Yeah, Saylor has
so in that case, you're either going to be really, really right or really, really wrong. But if you play at every table, you're going to lose.
Yeah, it's great perspective. Saylor's bet is extremely fascinating. I've had the privilege and opportunity of not only chatting with him a number of times, but we're running this joint venture called Bitcoin for Corporations, trying to onboard the next 100 publicly traded companies onto a Bitcoin standard. And I think the thing that resonates with a lot of people, and I think this will resonate with you as well, Grant, is the parallels between real estate and Bitcoin, in the sense that Bitcoin is scarce, just like land is, just like houses are. I've heard you talk about how, when you're looking at properties, right, you're trying to look at things at scale, but also in the same sense, like, right, you can't build 100 different White Houses. Like, there's only one White House, right, at the end of the day.
That's right.
Right. And so in the context of Bitcoin, right, in the context of the dollar depreciating, wealth is melting, you're hearing Saylor tell people to get off zero and that sort of thing. Now more than ever, Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, boomers, right, are trying to run everywhere to figure out, where do I put my dollars, right? And so, to your point, right, I think what people are starting to realize now in 2025, more so than in years past, is that there's only a couple of assets that are going to protect that wealth. And I think for a lot of people, they're starting to realize that Bitcoin's that move, especially with the advancements in regulation, right? Especially with the current administration. We had the repeal of SAB 121, gap accounting changes. We've had the Bitcoin ETFs come online, which I think spurred tons and tons of interest. And I think maybe potentially that's where you yourself started to pay more attention to Bitcoin. And I've heard you talk about how you don't like doing stocks because you don't want to go to, there's the security risk. You don't want to go to jail, that sort of things. You don't want to be the Nancy Pelosi's of the world.
Yeah.
What's your thought in the current cycle of where Bitcoin is at versus where Bitcoin was, right? We've got BlackRock, Fidelity, all in the game now. We've got Saylor in the game, big institutional powerhouses. We've got the Trump administration now talking about a sovereign Bitcoin wealth fund. Where do you see things going here?
I mean, look, to me, it looks like we're now, like, what, 12, 13 years into, 15 years into this thing. People are starting to adopt it at scale. I think people like Mike, even myself, like, I have these small companies that do fairly well, have a lot of cash. I know for sure the cash is going to zero. It's just, how long does it go to zero? So anytime I can trade cash, other people's money, from the sale of products, goods, and services, and there's something left over. Every one of my companies now has some Bitcoin sitting on its balance sheet.
Incredible.
I'm not buying the Bitcoin, though. I want everybody to understand, I don't see myself as the buyer of the Bitcoin. I'm selling products and services, and my customers are buying my Bitcoin. But this is a nuance for me. I've never bought any of my real estate. My customers from my other companies have bought my real estate. I am not a real estate only guy. I have a company, it produces products. Let's say I sell this ink pen. Somebody gives me $400 for the ink pen. It costs me $100 to make it. I have $300. I'm going to take the $300 and go convert it into either to make more ink pens, or when I've created enough ink pens and I can't sell any more pens, then the surplus is going to go into another product or service or a company. And the less I have to do there, the better. So I convert that into real estate. Now, the real estate one day starts throwing off $2 million a month in revenue, in net income, cash free, just bang. And it comes with a thing called depreciation. So the 2 million is actually 2 million. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with this 2 million now? Oh, I'm not going to buy gold. Okay. Because I got to go put it someplace. And to me, it doesn't make sense. And then there's this thing called Bitcoin, right? And I'm like, okay, I can understand the Bitcoin. I already own some. I've seen what it's done for the last 13 years. What if I start converting some of my distributions every month into Bitcoin? Then I went and met with Saylor. I was actually not thinking about the real estate when I met with Saylor. And he knew who I was. He says, look, you got a big audience. You have number one, the most important thing that you have is trust. You have it in spades. Your audience loves you. I've watched them do whatever you ask them to do, whether it's go to a convention where they don't even know who the speakers are going to be, or buy your next book, or use your health supplements. Your audience is doing what you ask them to do. They trust you. You should be a public company, and you should basically mimic what I'm doing at Strategy. And I'm like, well, I'm not a public company. And literally he said this, well, fuck, that's your problem. I mean, I'm telling you what to do. You got to go figure out, how do I do that? He's like, that's your problem. Like in his Mike Saylor way, right? That's your problem. And I left the meeting. I went back, had another meeting with him a couple weeks later, and I came back and we created our first ever real estate Bitcoin fund, which is basically 85% real estate. What we do is we take a piece of real estate and we have to be below replacement costs. Okay. So if this is the value of the real estate is all the way to the cap, I need to be down here. I need to buy it below what it should have been built for or sold for. And then I fill the rest up with a Bitcoin purchase. So I'm taking fiat. I buy the real estate for, in this case, $72 million. I stacked all the way back to replacement cost, which was 88. I added $15 million of Bitcoin. I bought both with cash, put it in a fund, and then I offered it to my audience at the same price. Everybody owns at that price. And then we wait. We have basically the base of the real estate, which we believe is worth 88 in the beginning anyway. And then every month when the real estate cash flows, there's no debt on it. As it cash flows, we buy more Bitcoin.
What has been the reception of your audience to this play, right? You have a very massive audience. Trust is obviously a big thing, to Saylor's point. What is their take on what you guys are doing? Because it's fairly novel.
Yeah, well, it's the first ever. We raised almost $90 million in 4 weeks.
It's a lot of money.
Half of the audience had never bought Bitcoin, and half of them had never invested in my real estate fund. So not only did it attract new people, you understand, we're not actually buying
Correct.
Bitcoin. The real estate is buying the Bitcoin. I'm basically putting a super hedge. If Bitcoin goes to zero, I still have my $88 million worth of real estate. Now, I did forfeit my dividend or my cash flow. But if you're a long-term hold, if you believe in long-term holds, if you don't have to have the cash today, we're not buying on margin. We don't have any debt on the property. I can always go get a loan on the property. Anytime I want, I could go get a loan tomorrow and return $60 million to our investors. But we're giving exposure to people that don't even understand Bitcoin, dude. They see the problem with the Bitcoin, the crypto people are weird, man.
Some interesting characters out there for sure.
Dude, you guys, like any industry, any pool of people, nurses, doctors, chiropractors, dentists, salesmen, Wall Street, they have their language, right? And you can't talk to them if you don't understand their language. Crypto people are fucking bizarre people. The maxis have their language. The altcoins. When you guys start using all this altcoin, like people are like, what is an altcoin? They don't even know what it is, but you guys throw this because this is the problem with religions, right? The religion talks to the religious, and you quit talking to the outsiders. And so the church ends up getting smaller and smaller, not bigger and bigger, because they're only talking to the people at church. I'm talking to people that don't know what Bitcoin is. And I'm saying, look, we're given the real estate. Basically, I bought 300 units. Imagine, I bought 300 units, and I went into one of the units and I found a damn wallet with Bitcoin in it. And you're my partner in the deal. And I say, hey, Allen, man, I just got to be honest with you. Me and you own this thing 50-50. I just found $15 million of Bitcoin in unit number 15. Should I give you half of that?
That's a good question. I would like 7.5 million myself, but you found it.
I mean, I found it. It's in our property. Should you not be able to get half that?
As partners, I feel like, yes, you should be able to.
So that's what I'm doing. I'm basically buying a piece of real estate. We found $15 million when we purchased it. Okay. And then every month we're going to add $300,000 worth of new Bitcoin for 4 years. So I'm basically going to be 85-15, and I'm going to end up being like 70-30. I'm going to start getting as close to 50-50 without purchasing any of the Bitcoin. The marketplace response has been phenomenal, dude. I showed this to Cantor Fitzgerald, Howard Lutnick's company in New York. 3 weeks ago. I've had 4 meetings with these people since then. They said, bro, what you're doing, can you scale this? I said, I'm going to have 10 done by June of this year. 10 different funds with real estate and Bitcoin. I showed it to a guy that's had public companies in the real estate sector. He's had REITs since he was 28 years old. I have a meeting with him this morning. When he saw it, he doesn't own any Bitcoin. This guy's got billions of dollars of real estate. He owns no Bitcoin, has never bought a single piece. And when I showed it to him, he was like, I'll invest in that deal right now. Instant. Like it was, I didn't explain anything to him, bro. All I showed him was I have my real estate buying my Bitcoin. I have renters, basically tenants, giving me money to go buy a thing called Bitcoin. The only people that really qualify for this, it's not the group that you mentioned early that's living paycheck to paycheck. They need cash flow. And this is why so many people today can't buy Bitcoin, because they don't have cash flow. And this is what my brother and I both agree on. Spend all your time hustling fiat. Don't spend your time hustling Bitcoin. Spend your time hustling fiat and convert the fiat to Bitcoin so that other people are buying your Bitcoin. And live below your means.
Great advice for sure. Essentially what you're doing here, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be incorrect, but you're taking Saylor's strategy and what he's doing as a public company, leveraging stocks, dividends, equity, and he's borrowing against it to purchase more Bitcoin. And you're just applying that in a real estate sense, right? And I think what's super fascinating to me about this is to your point earlier, that us Bitcoin maxis, altcoiners, whoever have like kind of crafted their own language, so to say, in this parallel financial system. And that never really resonated with a lot of the large capital allocators, the funds, the family offices, the CFOs of these major Fortune 500 companies. But now that we have these Bitcoin ETFs online, and there are vehicles in the traditional financial world that is married very nicely to accumulating this asset, Bitcoin, the best performing asset of the last decade, you're seeing a rush now of people like yourself, like Saylor, like Cantor Fitzgerald, figure out how to play the game and essentially hack the money printer is what you guys are doing. Now I see you have this this chart pulled up here on screen. Why don't you walk me through it?
Yeah, so basically this is this deal, right? This deal's full, so I'm not here pitching it. But what's the word y'all use? The Bitcoiners use. There's a word y'all use for pitching.
Oh, shilling. There's shilling.
Shilling. Yeah. To probably the most shilling industry on planet Earth. Talks about shielding, but this is basically the blue line represents, or the purple line represents, the real estate. And then, I mean, obviously because of the volatility of the Bitcoin, it has a chance to soar. See, real estate's very boring. Like it's a boring asset class. It has probably the highest smart score of any asset class, particularly the multifamily stuff. This is 300 units where Elon, I can literally sit on the deck and watch Elon launch rockets. It's 300 units, 294 of them are rented. We have 6 vacancies, and it's cash flow positive with no debt. So I just have to keep this for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. As the rents go up, the value of the property goes up. But it only goes up if the rents go up. Now, while that's happening, rather than me taking cash flow, I'm just going to buy Bitcoin with the cash flow. I start with basically $15 million. We've already purchased the 15 million. And then each month we add 300 grand or $3.6 million a year. And then at the end of 4 years, we should have, I don't know, who knows, right? Who knows what I have, but I'm going to have more than just real estate. I'll have the real estate, which is 88, somewhere around 88. And I'm going to have 160, probably 250 pieces of Bitcoin that I didn't pay for.
It's incredible.
So if that's worth 250 times 250, that's a score. It's $125 million. If it's worth $1 million, could be.
Especially with, the longer you hold, right? I know you're talking about one cycle, a cycle and a half in Bitcoin terms, but yeah, it's a very attractive chart, and it makes so much sense, right? You're putting your money to work to acquire this asset. You talked about how, you've talked to Cantor Fitzgerald, you've talked to some other people in the legacy financial system that, you show them this chart, you show them what you're doing with the real estate play. It resonates. It makes sense. It's very similar to Saylor. You talked about how you can scale this. What does that scaling look like? I know Saylor asked you, do you intend to go public? Is that,
Well, no. Saylor wanted me to, he thought I should take one of my other companies, my educational company, public, and then use the shares to do what he's doing. So I'm just going to flip the model, and I'm going to build the company private, fund it privately, and then take it public. So anybody that comes in with me on these first 10 funds is going to benefit. I'm telling them, guys, I'm going to take it public. I have the right to. They're passive investors. I'm going to convert their ownership in the real estate and the Bitcoin to a piece of paper. They can cash out at that point, or they could go for the ride. I think it's going to be a great ride because this has never been done before, dude. I'll take a REIT that normally trades for 8 or 9 times, and it's probably going to trade for 30 times. So
it's exciting.
This could be a great score and a great product, by the way, for the marketplace. When more people figured out how to do this. See, what happened was I would go into these Bitcoin rooms on X, and people would pop up. Grant Cardone, man, you need to put your real estate on the blockchain. I'll be like, okay, how do I do that? Shit, I want to do that. And I said, let's do it, man. And, oh yeah, I can do it for you. Okay. I got people telling me I need to turn it into a meme coin, and I'm like, but guys, I'll do all this stuff. The deal needs to be big. It's got to be $100 million, $80 million. Oh yeah, they did a hotel in Aspen. Yeah. Why did they do a second hotel? Why don't you ask simple questions? Don't be a dumbass. They did one and never did it again, which means it doesn't scale. Okay, just because you can put one house on a blockchain doesn't make it a business. And I don't know why you'd put one house on a blockchain, but some people you just can't talk to, bro, because once they, if you think psychiatry works, then get a lobotomy. But that's the only time it works for the psychiatrist that wants to experiment on you. It hadn't worked for mankind. And you need something scalable. I can do it a second time and a third time and a fifth time. That's what Wall Street wants too. I could do this 100 times. I could revolutionize real estate investing. Because what you have is you got yin yang. You got heavy and no weight at all. You have illiquid. The real estate's illiquid. You cannot sell even real estate that has no debt. You cannot sell that today. And then I have the most liquid asset class on planet Earth. I have something that cash flows and something that doesn't cash flow. Something that has tax write-offs and something that doesn't. Like literally both of them have one thing in common. They love long periods of time.
They love long periods of time, and they're both scarce, I think, is the two biggest things.
And they're both scarce. You're absolutely right. Like I would say to you that those 300 units in Melbourne are potentially more scarce than the Bitcoin.
I would say that's a fair assessment. 300 versus 21 million.
Well, no, I'm just saying
Yeah,
that property in that location,
right.
right? You can't do anything in that location again. Now, you could build something across the street or something similar, and that's what your audience is going to say. But they both do have the scarcity component.
Absolutely. Well, and to be fair to the audience, I think a lot of people both understand the values of Bitcoin and real estate hand in hand. I know there's a lot of loud Bitcoin maxis out there, and you've been in some of these X rooms, and people would be like, "You need to put 100% of your net worth into Bitcoin." And respect where it's due. I know plenty of people who have and have done very, very well. And to your point, right, being too diversified is not the way to play the game. But between the two, real estate and Bitcoin, I think you have very much a winning combo there. And you've definitely honestly, you've blown my mind a little bit. It was so obvious on the institutional and public company stock side. I never really thought of taking that strategy and applying it in a real estate sense. So for you to be the first to do it, it's obviously it's going to scale, it's going to blow up. I think it's going to be a huge narrative driver for Bitcoin as a whole come the next, not even 6 months. It could be overnight that people really start trying to replicate this and do something similar.
Well, it's not going to be easy to replicate,
Yeah.
okay? Because the reason it won't be easy to replicate is because, one, people will try to do it, but the groups that are going to try to do it, like I was with a big group, they own 140,000 units. Last Friday, I was in DC, and I showed them this, and they didn't get it. I showed it to a group at JP Morgan. Okay, they didn't get it. They don't get it. And the reason they don't get it is one group just doesn't get it, JP Morgan, and number two, it was just the people that I talked to. Maybe a different division would, but the other group, the reason they didn't get it is because they have a lot of problems right now. And they're in the REIT business. They're heavy real estate company, and they have a bunch of problems. So adding a new component doesn't solve their problems. It gives them a new problem. So I think it's going to be very hard to duplicate. I think some people are going to try, and certainly the more people that do it, the better for me, because you got mass adoptions. That never hurts. But you have to buy a good piece of real estate. Number one, it needs to be good real estate. That should be the most important thing. Number two, it needs to be 15% below replacement costs. So you better be a good negotiator. You better have a full pipeline of good real estate. And then you have to find somebody that's got pressure to sell at 15 or 20% below replacement costs. I don't even know how long I can do that.
Time will tell, right? It's interesting because you're both real estate and Bitcoin are assets you have to hold on to long term to see the maximum potential. So I think no matter which way you cut it, there's going to be, like, to your point, some people that try to replicate it are successful. Maybe not the JP Morgans and some of the people that have multiple problems with, whatever strategy they're running. But ultimately, I think it's going, time will tell, but ultimately I think it's going to be a strategy that everybody tries to get into. So super excited to continue following that journey, Grant. Definitely going to keep close eyes onto it. This is like a conversation that is actually blowing my mind in real time here.
Awesome.
I know we're coming up here at the top of the hour, Grant. And so I wanted to quickly ask you, I know you're speaking at Bitcoin 2025 later this May. I believe you had an opportunity to also attend Bitcoin 2024, which was for us in our industry, a pretty monumental shift, right? You had world leaders, then candidate President Trump, now president, who announced not only the strategic Bitcoin reserve, but just came out in full-fledged support, which is massively adjusted the conversation, both in traditional finance circles, real estate circles. Everybody's got all eyes on Bitcoin, right? What can the audience expect from you in terms of speaking? What's exciting you about Bitcoin? Where do you see things going here in the short term come May?
Well, let me just go back 1 second about the Trump thing. I think everybody in the Bitcoin space is very disappointed that Trump hadn't talked about Bitcoin. And I just want to tell all you guys out there, the reason he's not talking about it is he is a brilliant marketing guy, and he is only going to talk about things that control the narrative. If he comes out and says he's going to go on the Bitcoin, whatever Bitcoin, the opposition is not going to pick it up. Okay, he has to say, guys, I'm going to go. Let me see. We're going to buy Greenland, and we're going to call it red, white, and blue land. See, then we're gonna take over Canada. Then the people on the View go crazy. But if he says he's going to put Bitcoin on the strategic reserve, they're not going to cover the story. It's not interesting to them. So that's why you're not going to hear him talking about that. It's not because he's not supportive. More importantly, I think it's his cabinet that is more supportive and understanding of Bitcoin and crypto and his sons than he is. Number two, what should people expect from me? I don't know, dude. We'll have a good time. God damn. I mean, I'm gonna tell people what I'm doing. I'm a transparent person. That's the other thing I love about Bitcoin. It's transparent. It's real. It doesn't have on there "In God We Trust." I don't want to trust God with my money. I don't trust anybody. Now, I am a very faith-oriented person. I believe in God, but I don't think God has anything to do with money. God's given me unbelievable intuition and skills and gifts and courage, and then I just got to use it. But God's not going to get involved in my money. That's up to me, and it's up to whoever wants to get their money right. So I hope to bring the audience. Maybe they do. Do they do Q&A at these?
Sometimes
things?
They do.
Yeah. So I'm just going to talk about what I'm doing and what I see on the horizon. Why I'm doing this thing with Bitcoin. By then, is that May? By then, I should have 2 or 3 more funds opened up. Hopefully, opened up and closed. Who knows? Maybe I'll have gone public by then. We'll see, bro.
I'm excited to see. Definitely, you're going to have to give everybody.
Maybe I have a meme coin. I'm thinking about doing a meme coin. I think I should do one.
If you want to do a meme coin, you're a marketing play guy too. It'll be a great marketing play, but I don't know if you want that flack at the end of the day.
Yeah.
CoffeeZilla will come after you for sure.
That might come with more heat than it comes with
Definitely. Well,
speaking of memes, the Trump meme.
Yeah, absolutely.
When that thing launched, I was doing an interview with somebody about, isn't this terrible? And I'm like, no, it's not terrible. Okay. Trump has an audience that will buy anything that he offers. Could be a fucking coffee cup, a hat, a pen. It could be anything, bro. Bottled water. If it's got Trump on it, they're going to do it. Those people paid 70 cents or $70 and they wanted that coin. And they don't give a shit if the coin's worth $0 or $700. They ain't even going to get rid of the coin. Now there's the other people that deserved what they got. And those I think you guys refer to as the degens.
Yes.
And degenerates need to lose. Okay. They need to lose. They want to lose, and they always bet to lose. So if you went and bought 1 million coffee cups thinking you were going to be able to sell 1 million coffee cups with Trump on it for more money than you paid, dude, that's on you. That's not on Trump. It said on there, this coffee cup is worth nothing.
Yeah, no, a little bit of, there's nobody holding your hand when it comes to finance. You're the maker of your own destiny. You can't go and yell and have somebody fix your poor decision-making processes there at the end of the day.
That's why, Allen, every time I bring this meme story up and I'll say at the end of the story, I'm like, so that being said, I'm thinking about starting a 10X meme coin. People will be like, don't do it. And then hit me in the DMs. I'll help you on your project.
And I'm sure your response is always like, I'm good, bro. It's not for me.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Grant, I know we're at time here. Definitely, you're an easy man to find online. A quick, simple Google search will pull up your YouTubes, your multiple motivational speeches and stuff. But as it pertains to the fund, for anybody listening to this that may want to get in contact with you, what is the best way to find you and reach out to your people?
Yeah, go to cardonecapital.com, cardonecapital.com.
Awesome. Well, Grant, I appreciate everything here today. Definitely excited to continue tracking the real estate fund and the Bitcoin journey here. It's definitely going to be a big narrative driver, I think, this cycle. If people aren't already catching on, it's going to be this wildfire thing. Absolutely. But I appreciate all the time today. Looking forward to seeing you.
You
Bitcoin
got it, brother.
25.
Appreciate you, Allen, man.
Thanks, Grant.
Congratulations.
Cheers.